Alright guys, I'm going to give you a kind of a review here via video. Hope that's okay. Just going to kind of go through some questions. I would really say that the Deuteronomistic History Study Guide that's up on Moodle is a really good place to start, but hopefully this video will give you some more places to go looking. And that's kind of what I want to say about this study guide is, obviously I'm not going to give you answers to questions, but also the test is not going to be just how well you watch the study guide. Hopefully I'm going to use the study guide, and you can use the study guide to help point you in the right directions as far as what materials to look at and what kind of questions that I think are important. So anyways, just kind of broadly real quick, obviously this test is about the Deuteronomistic history, so why do we call it that? Why is it called that? What biblical books are we dealing with? What are the major themes that we've seen run throughout all of the DH? And what is the fate of Israel tied to throughout the whole of the Deuteronomistic history? What kind of determines their success or failure? The first book that we looked at was Joshua, obviously. How does it portray Israel, right? What kind of picture of Israel do we get in the book of Joshua? And also Joshua brings up the ban. What is that? So take a look at all that. When we get to Judges, how does Judges portray Israel? What's the thematic cycle? Know all the parts of those and how to order those. Let's see. What is Judge? Let me see. I'm just looking at my notes over here. By having that cycle kind of spiral out of control in Judges, what does it lay the groundwork for? What does the book of Judges kind of justify time and time again by having that cycle kind of spiral out of control? And also Judges gives us a different picture, possibly, of how Israel came to be in the land of Canaan. So think about those theories of emergence that we looked at, and especially the three major theories of emergence, and be able to kind of explain those and say what are their strengths and weaknesses, and kind of how they look at the books of Joshua and Judges. So be familiar with those. Then we have through 1st and 2nd Samuel and 1st and 2nd Kings, we have the monarchy. What crises led to the monarchy, right? What were the reasons that the text gives us for why they are needed to be a monarchy? What's the primary criteria for a good king in Samuel and Kings? And seeing how these are part of the Deuteronomistic history, what makes a good king isn't going to be too far from the kind of main concerns of the DH as a whole either. So it's a good place to look for that. And what kind of bias do we have in the, especially in the books of 1st and 2nd Samuel and 1st and 2nd Kings? Is there a regional bias? Is there a bias towards the north or the south, and how does that get shown? So from here on, you would need to know about the major characters we looked at and kind of what they show us about Israel, right? So you need to look at Samuel, Saul, David, and Solomon. And I'd say, if you want to think up some mnemonic for trying to remember all of those in the order they're in, I think I tried to put one together earlier that was something like Samuel, Saul, David, slaloming, right? Slaloming, where you, weave in and out on skis, right? So just something silly like that. Whatever you need to do to remember Samuel, Saul, David, Solomon. And then from there, once you kind of know that order, then it's just a matter of knowing what those people did and kind of knowing how the history of Israel progressed through them, right? So Samuel's that prophetic voice against the monarchy. We get Saul as the first kind of king or chieftain that really unites Israel against the Philistines. What does David do? What's significant about David and how he unites the religious and royal authority throughout his kingship? What does he bring into Jerusalem that's really the symbol of of religious unity? What does he commission in Jerusalem that's really this image of religious unity? And what about the Davidic covenant, and how does that compare to the Abrahamic covenant, and what's different? There's a huge movement that happens with David as far as religious and royal authority in Israel that's going to be really important to know in the test. Also Solomon, right, who is a wise ruler who steps into the kind of this golden age created by David. Actually builds the temple, but so he kind of brings this royal and religious unity into fruition, but at the same time has many wives who are foreign, who along with them bring these foreign cults, and so you have the problem of syncretism and the problem of all these foreign cults coming into Israel, right? And the Deuteronomistic history is obviously not going to like that aspect of Solomon's reign. And so he really embodies this kind of minority voice against the kings, right, by doing this. And then Solomon dies, and then you kind of just need to know this general history, right? The kingdom splits. When does it split? Why does the text say it splits? Who's the king in the north, and what does the text say about him? When does the north fall, right? Why and to who? What's the great king in the south that comes along just a little bit after the north falls and leads a major religious reformation after supposedly finding the book of Deuteronomy? And then when does the south fall, right? Why does it fall? To who does it fall, right? And then finally know who is that last king on the Davidic throne before they were taken off into exile. And obviously there's a fairly gruesome story connected with him. So this is kind of a short little, right at 7 minutes, 7-minute video, kind of review. If you kind of know the answers to these questions, then you'll probably do really well on the test. But again, this video should just be pointing you in the direction you need to look as far as when it comes to your notes or reading through your book and kind of really knowing what's important to remember for this test. Like I said, it's going to be really similar to your first test. It's going to have 10 matching questions in the same way with the first one with the verses, and then some kind of name or date on the other side. And have 10 multiple choice questions, 10 matching with Samuel, Saul, and David and Solomon, and finally 3 short answers with 2 extra credit if you want to take on those. So that's the test, and good luck.